the voice, Russell Watson. How nice to see you again.
You too, my friend.
Do you know, you're one of my favourite people, and I'll tell you why, because whenever you come on, A, you're entertaining, and B, your voice never seems to falter, you never seem to hit a wrong note, whether you're live or recorded. It's just an experience hearing you. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. How do you want me to pay you?
If you could do it in euros.
Oh, euros, okay. And, shall I send it to the usual account?
No, send it to Securitas in Kent.
Okay.
So anyway, we were saying about your new CD, which is out, because I spoke to you a year ago, and then you go and do this crappy reality TV. And, sorry, am I being insulting? You do this wonderful reality TV show, and you're like the biggest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah, it is bizarre, isn't it? I have to admit that when I was offered the show about 3 weeks ago now, my manager rang up and I went, no, straight away. And he went, what do you mean no? I said, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do the show. I don't think it's right for me. And he said, but people will get a chance for the first time to see Russell the person as opposed to Russell the stand-up and sing opera chappie, and I think they'll dig it. And actually, by the time I'd been there for 2 or 3 days, I actually started to quite enjoy the environment, and it was nice for me because I'm sort of in somewhere, sing with an orchestra, out with a new group of people, do their out to the next place, new group of people, and you don't really get chance to kind of make friends or settle with anybody. So this was nice because I was for the first time, I think, since I started this career, I was in a kind of in the same place all the time, and it was good. I enjoyed it.
The show was fascinating, and it was kind of the TV that you watched through your fingers. I mean, there were some really awful performances.
I'm glad you said that.
Well, I don't wish to be disrespectful, but I mean, it's very brave of you to take on a show that is putting professional singers with people that clearly can't even link a sentence, let alone sing. I mean, 2 words for you, Penny Smith. Come on.
Well, Penny was Penny, and I mean, the thing that I remember about Penny wasn't her performances, it was her rapport backstage. She was very funny, quite crude at certain periods of time as well, but she was just a good laugh and a nice person to be around. And for me, it wasn't necessarily just about the performances or the singing. From my perspective, I like to people watch, so it was just nice to watch the whole thing going on around me. It was very interesting. Lots of different personalities, lots of different characters, all with their own stories to tell. It was good. It was good fun. Whether it made good television or not is down to, I suppose, individual taste.
It's an interesting concept because you're put together with people who can't sing, as I've just said, and you're, of course, a professional singer. How hard is it to sing against someone who is missing virtually every note, and if they're not flat, they're sharp, and if they're not sharp, they're about 3 notes away from where they should be?
I don't know. I think overall it was a good idea. It was a good concept, and I actually felt quite sorry for Sian, my partner, because we were getting on really well. We became good friends as a result of the show, but she was getting a lot of slack from the judges, who really, I mean, some of the things that were said, you can understand as well why somebody who isn't a professional singer would kind of crumble or fall apart under those kind of circumstances and under that kind of duress, because here you've got somebody who is like a fish out of water. First and foremost, they don't sing for a living. Secondly, they're on live television, which in itself, I'm sure you know yourself, live radio is completely different from pre-record. It's a completely different animal altogether. And live television, the cameras are on you, the tape's rolling, there's no going back. If you make a mess of things, that's it. On top of that, you've got 4 hungry judges waiting to kind of pounce on you at any given opportunity, and you're singing with a professional who does this for a living. It can't get any more tense than that, and the voice naturally, under those sort of circumstances, tightens up. And what I was finding with Sian was she was singing really well at rehearsals. She was really relaxed and the voice was flowing, and then we were getting to the shows at the night and she was just tensing up and not able to get the words out, and that affects your tuning, it affects your pitching, it affects everything. It makes you sound quite croaky as well.
The couple who didn't win, because you did, I think he probably would have won had he have been more humble and just brought it in a little bit and gone, you know what, this is a game, this is fun, this is TV. He came across, to me as just a viewer, as incredibly arrogant, and that's not appealing to viewers.
Did you think so? From what I was seeing backstage and what I was seeing of him, he was a genuine... Mark is a really nice guy. I'm sure he'd be devastated to hear that you thought that of him, because he's quite funny, quite a character as well. But he was genuinely petrified.
But, I mean, you didn't say on any occasion that I watched, we want to win, we're going to win. I heard him say that twice on the final programme. That's not appealing to people. Is this a conversation cul-de-sac? Have we come to the end of this one?
I really don't like saying anything detrimental about people that I spent such a long period of time with and got on quite well with. I don't think that's...
I'm not looking to get you in bother. I'm not looking for...
No, you're not getting me in bother, and it's not like I went off behind their backs tittle-tattling about them. Nearly all the people on the show, by the end of it, had become quite, we'd all become quite friendly, and they were nice people. And it's not really my gig to kind of personally attack somebody.
But that's why you won, can't you see? The fact that you were humble and you were quiet, yet you, without question, in my opinion, night after night, song after song, gave the most charismatic performance.
Thank you.
When you say this is the ultimate collection, that sounds as if it's the last one you're going to make.
Well, I have something to tell you. It's not.
Oh, we're all disappointed.
Yes. I don't know. It's kind of... I feel so ingratiated. I feel so grateful that I'm still recording and making music kind of 5-6 years after I released my first record. And I know for a fact that a lot of artists that were in the chart around about the same time as I was when I released the first record, 99, 2000, have gone. They've gone. Their audiences have been either fickle or got fed up with them, and I've been incredibly lucky that I've got an incredibly loyal fan base that has followed me, stayed with me and supported me during what effectively have been all my peaks and troughs. And so I feel incredibly... I just feel really lucky to be in this position. And I suppose that this is a kind of celebration and a summary of the last 5-6 years. Say you've got a group like U2. They've just about clobbered every single area. Everybody, if you said U2 to somebody in the UK, I'm pretty certain even your grandma would know who U2 is, and your 5-year-old daughter or your 7-year-old daughter would know who U2 is. Not the case with Russell Watson. And there's a whole new host of other artists that are not too dissimilar to me that have appeared on the scene in the last 5 or 6 years. And I believe that there's still more people that I can influence with my music in this country. And indeed, I still believe that there's hundreds of thousands of people in this country who haven't got a clue who I am yet.
And internationally, presumably, it's the same thing, is it?
Well, definitely internationally for every artist, that's the same thing. I mean, in my world, you could mention... Somebody was talking to me, such and such a band. I went, who? You're joking? This guy's the biggest rapper in the world. And I went, I've never heard of him. And they went, he's massive. Everybody knows him. I went, I've never heard of him. And there's always going to be that.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you look at numbers? I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, I want an interview with Enya, and they went, no, you don't want Enya. Enya's the biggest selling artist for EMI.
Yes.
The biggest selling artist. You look at people like Andrea Bocelli, who's kind of in your same league, and Il Divo, who, again, now have just sold more albums around the world. They've just had the #1 hit in America, and I think they are the biggest selling classical pop group right now.
Yeah.
You're all kind of doing the same thing, but you're doing it quietly, aren't you?
Yes. Interesting fact, Time. If you were to say, this guy has sold more records during the millennia than Madonna has, people would go, yeah, whatever. But it's true. I have. And yet I have nowhere near the profile. Nowhere near.
But I don't think you want it, do you?
No, I don't. I'm quite content to avoid the celebrity status. It's not something that I've ever pursued in my career. Obviously, I want success, and obviously, as an artist, I want recognition for that. Celebrity status is not something that I've pursued or really want. I'm very happy to put a baseball cap on and a tracksuit and go down to the local supermarket and buy my own pint of milk. And that's the way I like it. I would hate to be in a position in my life where that became inaccessible, where I couldn't do that. In the Northwest, it's very different. But if I want to get away from it all, I come here and I can walk around relatively unnoticed. But that started to change a little. That just would not be what I wanted. And also, I think as well, because I know this sounds weird, but I worry about my children as well and their schooling and how their friends would react to them at school if Daddy was superstar and couldn't walk anywhere. I don't know whether that would put them up for some flack and problems at school. So that's also another consideration that I've taken.
So are you saying you've got the balance right now then, where you're selling enough records, you're doing enough live shows, and you're still keeping your privacy?
I'm not sure what this new television show that I've done, just the two of us, is going to do for my profile, because interestingly enough, I've already started to get recognised in the hotel in London by the staff there, and a lot of the staff there aren't English people, and they've already started to say, "Oh, we saw you on such a thing," or "We saw you on," the French guy on the door. "I saw you on the..."
That's a dreadful French accent.
I was not going to do it properly. But now you have said it, I must do it properly.
Very good.
Thank you. You see, that's what Mr. Copeland, to his surprise, didn't realise, was that when he started on the TV show, when he started personally attacking me, I think he was surprised when I came back with very quick retorts, and he eventually stopped. But that was something that, talking about the clubs, is something that I did learn in the clubs, and that was quick fire answers, quick fire comedy, because 10 years in the Northwest Working Men's Club is the best apprenticeship that any artist can ever have. It teaches you how to command an audience. It teaches you how to respond to any eventuality. It teaches you how to deal with musicians that have had 15 pints of ale that evening and are trying to play Nessun Dorma at the end of the night when they can't even see the music. I remember one night doing Nessun Dorma, and I swear to God, the guy was playing the tune from Tales of the Unexpected. I just said, "Stan," and he looked at me. "Yeah." I went, "Please, mate, just stop playing. Play me an F and I'll sing this a cappella," and he did, and the place went crazy. Let's take another record now from the new album, The Ultimate Collection of The Voice. We've already played a couple of my favourites. What's your favourite song on here? For me, Barcelona with Shaun Ryder brings back some of the fondest memories. It was my first single. It was an incredibly exciting period in my career. The record was just about ready to go. We released that as a single, as the kind of launch for the record, and I just remember, we did TFI Fridays, Chris Evans, NME Record of the Week, which had never been achieved and still hasn't since by a classical artist. And there was just so many great things going on, and it was just an amazing time. And Shaun was just, he's a legend where I come from, and it was just great fun. We're back with Russell Watson talking about his new album, his success on Just the Two of Us, and his life and career. And you are incredibly humble, and I think the shyness kind of shone through on the TV more than with other people who were a little bit more show busy. Mm-hmm. And again, I think the reality TV thing is so prevalent in people's minds now. They just like a guy that's normal, doing what he does and gets on with it. Yeah. Was that intentional, or did you just go in and you were you from the beginning? I was me. That's all I can be. I'm like every other human being. I have different moods and different, I feel differently. There were some days when I went in and I really didn't feel like going in there, and I wasn't in a good mood, and that would have come over on the camera because, I'm not just going to walk in, click my fingers and go, "I'm in a good mood today, everybody, hello." So there'd be days where when I'd go in and the people who were operating and filming us all the time would go, "Ooh." If you did that hello thing again, I think you'd sell more records. Do you think? Yeah, honestly, I think if you put that on your front cover next time... Let me just try it. Hello.
Let's move on. Let's talk about your upbringing in Manchester, because you had such an interesting life and you were so ordinary, and your career is extraordinary, but from what I understand, your life is still very ordinary and you keep very much in contact with your family and very grounded. Presumably that's the most important thing to you, is it?
Most important thing to me right now is my family. My children is very much top of my agenda, and that a conscious decision that I made at the end of 2005, pretty much after almost 2 years of just intensive touring. I mean, it was virtually non-stop and all over the place. America, Japan, Malaysia, everywhere. And I kind of got back. I was coming back after long periods of time away from home, picking the kids up at the weekend, and my eldest had grown like 3 or 4 inches, and I just, there was a point where I just thought to myself, I'm missing this very, very important stage of my child's life and my children's life, and I made a conscious decision really that that what I was going to do was effectively spend more time in the UK this year, and that's probably why you're going to see a little bit more of me and not seen so much of me for 2 years, because I have been getting, or I was getting towards the end of last year. Where have you been? What's happened? Aren't you making records anymore? Well, yeah, but I've been selling them in other other countries, and it's a big old world for a solo artist.
Absolutely. In terms of your time now, will you do everything they ask you to do, or is it still important to get back up north to the kids?
Yeah, I mean, I've made sure that I have the weekend off, for instance, but it is quite intense, and you're right, I'm being pulled. I mean, today I've done already, I don't know how many radio interviews, and during the only spare period of time I had was in the car, travelling from one station to the other. I've been on the phone doing press interviews. So it is quite intense, but it has to be evenly paced, because, I mean, as you know, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Here's Johnny! I mean, it does. It makes you crazy if you just working all the time. You do get to that point where it's like,
And everybody's asking you stupid questions. I mean, how dull are most journalists on a scale of 1 to 10?
Good Lord. I do get asked some ridiculous... I'm sick and tired of I mean, for the past 5 years, I don't know how many records I've sold, but how many times I've been asked how old I am.
You see, from my point of view, I know I'm not an average journalist nor a presenter nor anything, but I don't care, to be honest with you.
I don't care how old you are. I really don't give a damn. I mean, can you imagine if I just walked into your studio and there's how old are you?
Why do they need to know that? It's an obsession, isn't it?
I'm 93.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have the same surgeon as... No, I won't say that.
Yeah, exactly. Be careful. I mean, the other thing is, I have fun with them. I mean, I don't do many interviews because not many people ask for them, but when I do, I say stupid answers and they write it down. They will believe everything you say.
Yes.
So where did you go to school? I went to school in Vietnam. Oh, really?
Oh, no.
This is your 5th album. How do you look back on your career now and the songs you've made? Do you think your first album was as good as this last one, or do you wish you could go back and re-record a few of the songs again?
I listened to things back from the first album, and I now know the language much better than I did on record 1, and I'll listen to record 1 and think, oh my God, that's so wrong.
I mean, it would be ridiculous, wouldn't it, if you did these in a mock Italian accent? I mean, you've got to get it quite right, and as I say, these songs are just they sound so natural, and that's what I think was appealing about you in the beginning. People saw you in real life and saw you interviewed and thought, that can't be the same guy we've just heard on this track.
Somebody said to me not so long ago, what do you attribute your success to? And they said, was it how you sing or the music you sing? And I said, I don't think it's either. I think what it is that when I released the first record, the story and where I was from and my background and my roots, I think a lot of regular people made a connection with it. They liked it. It was a sweet story. It was a nice story. And also, the fact that there was a lot of critics and a lot of criticism as well at the time, I think just brought that band of people, it brought them closer, and they became very defensive over me. Another very interesting thing is that I don't seem to get criticised as much these days. I used to get slagged off to hell on the first 2 records, and it kind of went down a little bit on the third, and then by the time I got to this record, people are just really kind of leaving me alone now.
How is it now for you, fitting in your local community? Do they still accept you as Russell Watson, the lad that was touring the clubs, or has it changed?
Well, I don't really... It is difficult to kind of socially fit in. Inevitably, when I go out, particularly in the Northwest, which is my hometown and where they're very proud of me, everybody wants to, a lot of people want to meet me and say hello and shake my hand, so it's very difficult to get a quiet evening. So that is one of... I used to love nothing more, to be honest with you, than kind of popping into the local pub just before I grabbed a takeaway and having a couple of pints with my dad. I really did enjoy that, but it got a little bit difficult, to be honest with you. Not actually locally, say where, maybe, for instance, say in Earlham, where I'm originally from, it wasn't so bad there, but if there was different, like, Chinese restaurants or whatever that I'd go to with my dad and get a pint, and people would be staring and coming over, and are you Russell? Yeah. And after a while, I thought, I'm probably going to leave it. You've got to enjoy what you do first and foremost. You've got to enjoy being on stage. You've got to enjoy the job. You've got to enjoy early mornings and late nights. You've got to enjoy all that. Integrating with people, being friendly, chatting, talking about yourself. All those things you've got to enjoy and you've got to embrace. And if you don't, there's no point.
And I think ultimately the one thing that matters, which we were discussing before the programme, is that there's one group of people that will decide whether you're any good, and that's your audience, and whether you can still fill theatres.
That's the acid test. You can go out and sell as many records as you like in the first week. You can be number one for as long as you like. But the acid test is getting on the stage and singing live in front of an audience who've all come to watch you. And it's the first night of the new concert tour, the new world tour, and you're just putting your stage on the road, and you're very nervous and you're not sure. You've got to have a full house. If you don't have a full house, it's the worst feeling in the world to see empty seats scattered around a venue. It really is. I did it for 10 years in the working men's clubs.
I suppose the difference now as well, the people are facing you in theatres and they're actually listening. I mean, that must be frustrating when you're doing the clubs, that people have got another agenda, which is to get drunk.
Someone said to me, you must have been petrified when you went on stage and you did the concert for the Pope at the Vatican, and you knew that there was so many people watching you worldwide, and the Pope and all the cardinals. You must have been petrified. I said, no, I wasn't actually. I wasn't scared at all. The very first thing that I ever did in the music industry was enter a local talent competition where I sang Neil Diamond's Love on the Rocks, and I won. I was very surprised, because up until then I didn't really realise that I could sing, or that anybody thought anything of my singing. And there I was with a local agent. So many sovereign gold rings that, I'm surprised he could even lift his hand up to slick back his hair. They must have been that heavy.
So he was like a Del Boy of his day, was he?
Yeah, and he was, oh, Russell, he can really do it for you, my son. We can make you a big star in Manchester, in Withamshire.
And I ended up doing a lot of what he called nice little pubs, which actually weren't particularly nice, if the truth be known, where there'd be gangs of gentlemen all drinking pints of lager and smoking buckets of cigarettes and swearing and pushing each other around and larking and laughing, and I'd turn up, singing Elton John covers and Neil Diamond covers. And one particular night I was in a place called the Bear's Paw, and this gentleman was stood in front of me with a shaved head, tattoos all over both arms and all over his face, and he kind of stood about as far as I am from you, about 4 or 5 feet, just growling at me like this. And my first number, this is so true, my first number was Stuck on You, got a feeling down deep in my soul that I just can't lose. And this guy stood in front of me, and it was the longest 30 minutes of my entire life. And when I finished, I walked over to him and I thought, you know what, if I'm going to get killed, I'm going to get killed. And I said, I'm sorry, can I help you in any way? And he said, yeah. Do you do any Elvis? I said, I do now.
We're here with Russell for an exclusive hour-long programme. My name's Alex Belfield, and when I knew you'd made it first, big time, was when I saw you on Larry King Live, which is one of the most watched programmes in America. And as they say, if you can crack America, you can do anything. How important are those moments for you when you realise that you're on one of the biggest shows in the world?
Every individual event and every individual thing that I do, I deal with as it comes, as it happens. So I'm fully aware of when I'm doing something very special, but each thing that I do, I treat with the same respect. So I'm not going to think, oh, I'm only going into Joe Schmo local radio with 200 listeners and think I'm going to give them a crap interview. I always give what I give on the same level. It doesn't fluctuate. I don't think because I'm on a show that's got 100 million viewers that I'm going to be better than the show that I did with 100 viewers. I give the same, but I am aware of the relevance of different programs that I do.
Do you get nervous?
I don't really get nervous. The only things that I'm generally ever nervous about or anxious about is whether my voice is feeling fine, and recently, generally, it has been, so that's not been a problem. And for me, whether the sound is good, that's incredibly important, because you can make a good singer sound terrible if you've not got the balance of sound right. It is... There's no question about that. You're only as good as the people that are kind of operating the equipment around you, and I'm very much aware of that. And so I try to get involved and make sure that I've got all my bases covered where that's concerned. And sometimes, people can view that as being a bit of a pain in the arse.
Well, it's interesting. I'm always amazed at journalists when they write Shirley Bassey is a diva and difficult. And I think, well, hang on a minute. If your show's the Shirley Bassey show and you're doing a live concert and your sound man screws it up so that the people at the back can't hear it,
yes,
because that's all you've got.
That's true.
To protect your product, isn't it?
That's absolutely true. It's all the way down the line. I mean, you have to keep your ball on all the elements. And
you keep your balls on what? Sorry.
You have to keep your eye on the ball. Sorry,
took my breath away for a moment there.
And genuine. I mean, when people do ask me about them, I remember the very first question that I was ever asked on live television. It was Granada Television. I think it was Lucy Meacock, and I was told that the question that I was told that was going to be asked first wasn't the question. So I was already quite nervous about it because it was my first. And she said, "So Russell, where does that voice come from?" And I said, out of me mouth.
That's a great answer. Legendary. I hope they wrote that down. Listen, it's always nice to talk to you, and I wish you all the best with everything that's going to happen, because you're going to be...
Is that it?
Well, I'd be happy to talk to you, but I think you've got to go. I mean, I'd be happy to do another 15 minutes if you're happy to stay. Congratulations on everything. Good luck with the new album. The ultimate voice of Russell Watson is available now. It's his collection of best songs, and there are so many great songs on here. My favourite has to be You Raise Me Up, which everybody and his brother seems to have done recently, but some better than others.
That's absolutely true. Interestingly enough, I was one of the first artists to record that track. In fact, I think after Secret Garden, I was the second artist, but it didn't get released on the disc when I wanted it to be released. And then somebody kind of nipped in before me. That was just around about the time I got the vocal problems. But it's a fabulous song. A really great song, really emotive.
Your next album is going to be what? Would you ever like to write your own material? Are you going to do some different stuff, or are you going to stick with what works and what people love best, which is the big classical pop sound to your album?
I think I probably will have a go at writing something original. I'm definitely keen on doing something of that nature. And I'm just going to see, really, what the feedback is from the recent television show, because I think that was one of the first times that the public have got an idea of how I can mix it up vocally, and just see what their reaction is and have a look at some of the comments. The night we did the Just the Two of Us show, we won the final. I got 22,000 hits on my official website and 90 pages of comments. So I've been sent those comments, and I'm going to read my way through them and just have just out of interest, see what the fans' comments were and what they were liking and what they weren't. And I think probably structure my next album based on what the viewers' comments have been.
Congratulations on everything, because your voice is second to none. I've championed you from the beginning, and I think that you're one of the few artists who keeps his mouth shut. You get on with what you do, you don't get involved in all the nonsense of show business, and still produce a brilliant album. And honestly, this is a great listen, especially I love it in the car. Russell Watson, thanks for coming on the show.